Digital Consciousness TV. This is a space where we have conversations in a very candid style with some of the most amazing leaders around the world, in the hope that it can also impart that inspiration onto other people to want to follow their bliss and do what they love. So today's interview is with the amazing Preston Smiles. Some of the topics that we cover are power of perception, big boys do cry, the progression of the young male in today's society. We also look at the Love Mob, which was an organisation that he co-founded, and it's a love movement, a social movement. We look at true poverty and delve into what that really means. Gratitude growing and growth, gratitude giving and growth. And we also look at mirror neurons and relationships and taking responsibility for what it is that we create. We cover off on religion, spiritual beliefs, and the meaning of life, as well as serving humanity. So if you do like what you see, please subscribe, like, or share this message to get it out to more people. And I'll tell you a little bit about Preston Smiles now before we start the interview. So Preston is a messenger of all of these things and more. His message is authentic and it's powerful, and he defines the very nature of love and the capacity that we all have to deliver this. He inspires through shining his own light, and my wish for you is, as you watch this, is that it unconsciously gives you permission to go and shine in your own way. So please sit back, relax, and savour up the delicious words of Preston Smiles. Okay, so tell us about the name Preston Smiles. I've heard a little bit about it, and I think it's got a cute story to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, my name is Preston Smiles. I was not born Preston Smiles. I was born Preston Davis. But the short version of this, with a little preamble, is my father, in all of his craziness, did something really awesome as a kid, and people, but kids in general, are always watching, and it's not necessarily what the parents are saying, but it's who they're being. And my dad was this guy, at a point in my life where anything I would point at, he'd say, "You want that?" and he'd give it to me. Wow. But he would always teach a lesson about the thing he was giving me. He said, "You can have anything you want." And what happened was I would watch him treat, these, and I remember this particular day, we're in one of our BMWs. We had like 6 BMWs at the point, and like a bunch of houses and all this stuff. We're in one of the red BMW, and we pulled up to a light, and a guy came up to the window asking for money, and my dad, called him sir, and gave him money, and it was like this, like, huh? Yeah, and it was moments like that where I would see him treat what we would call, people lower than us, the same way he treats his, the CEO of the company he was working for. Like, everybody got the same respect. So fast forward to, I'm in college, and I started in theater school, and I was getting my master's degree, and all the kids would sit in the front of the buildings right before class and smoke cigarettes, and they would throw them on the ground and throw their trash on the ground in front of this particular janitor named Miss Evans. And she would, come and sweep it up, and she'd be sweating, and like, it's Louisiana, so it's super hot, and she's dripping with sweat, and she's this little miniature black woman, and she's picking it up. And it bothered me so much. I would always be looking at them like, guys, why won't you just go and take it yourself? And instead of yelling at them over and over again, I started, I knew I would see her Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and at 8 a.m. So I would bring an extra bottle of water, ice cold water, and a granola bar. And we would just sit and have breakfast. So she would take her little breaks, and we would talk about her kids, talk about the holidays, talk about nothing in general, but just being a human being and treating her as she was. And months later, I was running down the hallway for something, and she was like, "Boy, you always run around here smiling. I'm going to call you Preston Smiles with your happy self." And it was this
just
moment.
Like that.
It was this moment where I was like, "Huh, that's my name."
Yeah.
And it's stuck ever since.
That's perfect. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you grew up in the middle of, like, I've had a little look into some of your work, and you said you grew up in the middle of an identity crisis. And do you think that's what is happening to our kids of today? And why do you think that we get given these tapes as kids, and who does it ultimately serve?
Yes, absolutely. I did grow up in the middle of an identity crisis very early, and yes, I do believe the internet has changed. You know, it's turned the world into a neighborhood, and it's also it's being used in a way to bombard people in general, but specifically kids as well, because if you get someone young, and this is thinking of corporations, if you get them young, you have a customer for life. So what they're doing is they're inserting all of these messages, and they're paying people. You know, I just did a video about this because I have a YouTube channel. I did a video, which will be released probably in a month or so, about the music, right? The music industry pays people to make music that is tearing us apart. And they give them a bunch of money. And what that does is it already, on the subconscious and unconscious level, is programming, you know, that, oh, you need to get money, you need to get cars, you need to get women.
Yeah.
And, you know, women are not to be respected. It's like this thing. And it's not a white, black, Asian, anything issue. This is a people issue. Yeah. Because, you know, this is the largest young people generation in human history. And they're all listening to the same music. They're all watching the same TV. They're being bombarded by the same stuff. So when someone's talking about Kim Kardashian, that's not a white and black thing. They're all talking about it. They're all watching the same stuff. And it's affecting them. And, you know, for me, it's highly important that people like myself and you and anybody else who understands that love is all there is, for us to wave that flag and to be as big as possible within the context of who we are, to create another lane that is so beautiful that they stop looking over there.
Amen to that. So when was that exact moment of awakening to your soul's purpose? Do you remember it?
There's been many of them. I remember one in particular that was like a gigantic aha for me, and it was like the beginning of of the journey, where I was like, oh, you know, the one I explained already with my dad. That was one of those things that resonated with me as a kid. I didn't even put words to it, but it meant something. The best way I can explain this is that I'm a fiery person. Like, I have a lot of energy and a lot of passion, and it just bleeds through me everywhere. I ooze this stuff. Yeah. And it's who I be. Right? It's a part of my soul signature. And when I was a kid, because I was in a position where gangster rap and violent movies and like the reporting of violence went up in the U.S. in particular, that I went from, you know, this middle-class, happy-go-lucky kid to joining a gang and being very aggressive and mean and stealing from stores and fighting and beating people up and spray painting on walls and busting windows, and you name it, I did it, besides actually taking someone's life.
Yeah.
And
in the moment of doing that, when you would do that, say, rewinding back, as a kid, did you ever have that little voice in your head when you did those moments of things that were maybe, you know, not congruent with you? Did it feel it on a cellular level for you, or did you just sort of numb it out and just do it?
Yeah, you become numb. You know, I have a new talk that I'm doing, and it's called Big Boys Do Cry. Yeah. And what I'm explaining in this talk is that, like, you take a 5-year-old kid, right, a 5-year-old little boy who scrapes his knee, and he comes to his father and his brother, who at the time are home, and he says, I have a boo-boo, and he's crying. 9 out of 10, no matter where he is, he's going to be told that big boys don't cry. He's going to be told to man up. He's going to be told on an unconscious level that his feelings don't matter. So you now take that same 5-year-old little boy and you make him 10. Now he's had 5 years of playing sports with other little boys who've been taught the same thing. Dog eat dog. To kill, to make a way out of no way. And that your feelings don't matter. The only feelings you get to express are anger and rage or shut down. Now you take that same 10-year-old and you make him, let's say, 17. And he's still coming into his manhood. He's trying to figure out who he is, but still, he has at least 10 to 15 years worth of practice of not accessing all of that stuff. Fast forward, you make him 25, then 35, then 45, and you put him in charge of giant corporations, and you put him in charge, and you make him the CEO of McDonald's, and he goes, well, screw it, I got a bottom line. He's just, all he's doing is repeating what he's been taught. Since he was 5 years old, and that has become a cancer in our society.
That's too true. Yeah. So as a young kid, growing up in that environment, and you talk about the development of self, so going from, a very different lifestyle, being as a kid in a gang, and then going into another environment where effectively it transformed you. Do you think that, or just the thought that some people are born into negative environments, yet they still have the ability to transform their lives while still being in that environment? Do you think it's the environment completely, or is it the perception of the environment that actually alters our reality? And does it take like a conscious decision to do that?
Yeah, it's the perception of the environment. We especially now, we live in a time, like I was just in Africa last year, in the middle of the bushes, in the middle of nowhere, hours into the middle of nowhere, and they have cell phones. They don't have running water, and they have cell phones. So, it's the perception of, yes, I had a situation, which I did not explain to your viewers, where all of that landed me in a situation where one of my friends was shot and killed. And it was a wake-up call for me that something, I always knew there was more. And I'll say this, there's a part and a place within every single being on this planet that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. There is a part of all of us that is completely innocent. And there's all these walls and these layers in front of it sometimes, and I was one of those people, but I always knew there was more. I just didn't know how to access it. And when my friend was killed, it was a jolt for me. And that sent me to a different high school in a different state where I just so happened to be the only black kid in the school. And during that time, I had a realization while I was in a car with one of the kids in a BMW, swerving, where I'm like, okay, the kids at my former high school were drinking, smoking, listening to Outkast, Tupac, Biggie. The kids at North Allegheny High, this school that's all white, are smoking weed, drinking, listening to Outkast, Tupac, and Biggie. So we're all doing the same things, but getting different results. And that's based on the expectation. But the expectation is a mental thing that we come back to. It's the perception, The kids at my old school did operate within an expectation, but the expectation was not for them to really succeed. Yeah. There's an underscore of like, fuck them. Yeah. That's essentially what it felt like. And, I had the opportunity to leave that environment and to look back at it. And then I went back, and I still did the same stuff I was doing. I just did it from a different place. And then I started playing a game that I'm grateful for everything that I've experienced, because when I speak about this stuff, and I speak to people, I know that, and I know that they get that I'm not guessing about this stuff. I was a cheater. I was a liar. I was a person who stole. I was out of integrity, and I knew, but I didn't know how to. Yeah. Because there's not many examples other than that, and that's across the board at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think it takes for, say, someone to awaken to their true potential of love? I mean, we are the essence of love, yet we get complexed by society and all the messages that come in and out, and we get, in lots of ways, that love starts to fade out a little bit, and then we forget about it. We forget about using it. I'm on the same journey where I went through that same path of losing myself in the world, that what I thought the world wanted me to be versus what I really am, and going through that journey on my own and doing that. And and awakening to that true potential of love. And now when I stand in front of big corporations, I talk about the heart center and love and coming from from the authentic self. But what do you think it takes for someone on that journey to really truly awaken to that potential?
You know, there are many ways to even walk through that door or even turn the computer off. I'll say what has worked for me, and in my studies I've come to find that it has worked for many of what we call the greats. You know, my understanding is that we're all great, and that we all, as Mother Teresa says, you know, if everybody cleaned up their doorstep, the whole world would be clean. And to me, it's our job to clean up our consciousness. The answer to how we do that for me and is what I call the 3 G's. The first is gratitude. Is like, but not like oh yeah, I'm grateful. Like, yeah, of course, I'm like grateful for my like life and like not that grateful.
Yeah.
Like moved to tears grateful. Like grateful for the divorce. Like grateful for the pain. Grateful for the dis-ease. Grateful for all the stuff that is your life as of right now. And like that deep gratitude, because this is my understanding, and science backs this up as of right now, that everything is vibrating. Everything is vibrating. And Einstein, one of my colleagues, one of my friends, one of my mentors, says that when you raise your level of consciousness, everything around you comes with you or falls off. And what I believe he means by that is like when you become the frequency of the thing you're calling in, everything that doesn't represent that leaves. Or it comes with you. And like when we drop in...
Do you think we're on a constant evolution of that? Like we never stop that upward journey of that frequency, going up on a higher frequency? Do you think it ever stops?
You know, I actually do. And we may disagree on this, but I believe that the universe, God, Krishna, Buddha, Allah, whatever name is on the door, divine intelligence, I believe that thing, the thing that we are enveloped in, is a giant yes. I believe that it's like, cool, whatever you want in this lifetime, you got it. Yeah. And those who choose to be constantly ascending and in their evolution, that's exactly what happens. And those who don't, you know, my father, for example, my father is one of the most amazing people in the world. He's also one of the most stubborn people in the world. And there was a point, 5 years ago where and I'm still in this process, where I'm like, his life is his life. Whatever he chooses to do with that, if he chooses that McDonald's and Pepsi and, cigarettes and all of that stuff is healthy for him, then awesome. I get to release my concept about what I believe he should be doing with his life. And to me, not everybody comes into this lifetime to figure it all out.
Yeah.
In this one.
Yeah.
And I also believe that the universe, God, births way showers. There's these people that come through, and I believe you're one of them, and I believe that I'm one of them. I believe that the collective consciousness is calling for a shift. Yeah. I think that most people can't put words to it per se, but they're calling for something different. All the stuff we've been told is now becoming a gigantic lie to most people, and it's why millennials will not take 9-to-5s. It's why this younger generation will not walk into a cubicle.
Yep.
Because they know that's a lie. They know that they'll be 65 and sad and wondering what they did with their life. So they're choosing not to do it. And to me, the collective consciousness is calling for way showers. Therefore, you are being birthed, and I am being birthed. And on an unconscious level, I believe I called for this whole thing. Yeah. Even, the whole thing. Yeah. And now that I'm in a space where I'm of the knowingness of that, it is my duty to access the light from within and become the flame wherever I go.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely that. So we were talking about the gratitude. So you covered off on the first one, and then I sort of diverted. Sorry. So what were the other two? I'm
The other
master of diversion.
Yeah. The other G is giving.
Yeah.
Is thinking about how you can serve. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a quick story that happened to me just the other day. So I started doing this cleanse, right? And at 7 a.m., I took the first drink of the cleanse that I was doing. And by 11 a.m., I was freaking out, right? I was like, I'm hungry! Like losing my mind, right?
Yeah.
So it just so happened that my computer had to go back to the Apple store, so I was without a computer. So, and I knew I needed to print a speech that I'm going to do in Australia in a couple weeks. Yes. So I go to Kinko's. I get there, I walk in, I sit at my station, and as I'm sitting down, I notice this guy, this older gentleman, really agitated. And you know, I'm always taking everything. And he's talking to the attendant, and he's like, I want my money back. And he's just really upset. So I sit down, start doing my thing, I hit print on the thing, and I walk to go get my speech. As I'm walking back, he's walking past me like this. And at that moment, I remembered what I teach people all the time, which is when you access the light from within, you become the flame wherever you go. So I'm a walking context. So at that moment, I dropped in. Whatever he's being, doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm going to be love at this moment. So I dropped in, and I got into my love space, and I just gave him a slight smile. And I walked back, and I sat down. As I sat down, he said, young man. I looked over, and he was like, do you think you could help me with this? I'm trying to fax something, and I can't figure it out, and they can't figure it out, and he's really upset. Yeah. Right? But what I noticed is that I became a safe space immediately when I dropped into that love space. Yeah. So I said, sir, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure it out, but I'll try. So I sat down next to him, and about 4 minutes went by, I figured the whole thing out. Right? And the whole time, he's sitting in the chair, I'm on my knees next to him on the computer, and he's like, you know, I know you got your own thing going on, and in Kinko's, the clock's running. Yeah. So your time's going, and you're spending more money. Yeah. And my station's just sitting there. So I'm like, you know, it's okay, sir. And he's like, you know, you're a lifesaver. I just got to tell you, you're a lifesaver. So finish that. As I start to finish that up, there's this, like, maybe 75-year-old grandmother who just sat down. And she's hearing this and just kind of looking over at me, right? And I said, ma'am, do you need some support too? And she said, yes. I just don't know how to get on the internet. Can you help me? And I said, of course I can. So I sat next to her, and I got her on the internet. I said, what are you here to do? Well, I got to print this thing. My sister sent me this paper, and I got to print it. So I take her through the whole thing, right? Yeah. A total of 8 minutes goes by. We finish. She goes, you need to quit your good job and get this bad job. I need to take you home with me. You a lifesaver. And she's like super excited, right? She said, thank you guys so much. And they start talking to each other about what I just did for them. Wow. Because they're both older, you know, and like, I get it. My mom has an issue with the internet stuff too. So I walk off. I go and, you know, check out. I get up, and by the time I got to my car, I realized something. And this is back to the G. This is back to giving. I asked myself, where were my problems? Where was my starvation? Where was my crazy mind that needed to eat something? Where was that during that time? Yeah. It didn't exist. Why? Because when you focus out, whatever you put your intention on expands. And, you know, scientifically, we have something called mirror neurons. So we're always taking in what another is doing, right? And then we have a choice within that. Mirror neurons fire off. Let's say if I were to break my arm right now, your mirror neurons your arm would be broken. You would go, oh, yeah. And you would get squeamish, right? So I realized that, like, the first lesson was like my problems weren't even there. They disappeared because I was in a space of how can I serve. Number two within that was like, it took nothing. It took all of 8 minutes for me to have an impact on somebody and to be impacted. And what I've learned throughout my time is, like, when you focus out, when you focus on supporting people, Zig Ziglar talks about that. When you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. And, you know, focusing out supports you in understanding what you actually have. You know, like people get so caught up. They get so caught up in what they don't have.
Yeah.
You know, and like when you're giving, when you're looking for ways to support, it does something internally. So yeah, that's the second G.
Yeah, beautiful, love it.
Uh-huh.
And what's the lucky number 3?
Lucky number 3 is growth, personal growth. You know, if we're not growing, we're not living. Nothing in the universe is static.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Ever changing.
Exactly. And you know, I find that personal growth is so gigantic. You know, just to continually be asking myself, how can I improve? How can I better my best?
Yeah, be the best version of who you can be. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, Jim Rohn talks about something. He talks about the power of until. You know, so like, do you have children?
A furry one.
Okay.
One that barks and that I can leave at home.
But once you were a kid,
yeah,
and there was a point when you decided that you were going to walk, and you know, I asked myself, or I asked you, would your parents say, you know what, Tanil has fallen too many times, we're done, she needs to stop?
Stop walking.
No. Yes, stop falling and trying to walk. You're never going to do it. Just stop. No.
Apparently, I got up and walked straight away. I didn't even crawl, my mum says. I just stood up one day and just walked.
You made your decision.
That's it.
For sure. For sure. But most people who aren't genius like you end up, you know, dragging and then falling and dragging and falling. And the job of the parent is to say, my child is going to keep falling until she walks, until he walks. And I always challenge my clients to keep doing it until you don't fall as far, until you don't fall as fast, until your ceiling now becomes your floor. You know?
And the very nature of us falling, even as a kid, the metaphorical thing behind it is that it teaches us, oh, okay, if we lean too much that way, we're going to fall this way. If we lean too much that way. So all in that falling comes the lessons of how it is to walk proud, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We were talking about love, and I want to touch on, if I could, a little bit about your journey with the Love Mob, and how it came into creation, where it was, and how people can learn a little bit more about it as well.
Yeah. So the Love Mob is a social movement that I'm the founder of. Our through line is organized acts of love. So we do giant flash mobs, we do all kinds of stuff. The idea is to reconnect 3.6 billion people to the power of community through organized acts of love. And what we do is we make love as a lifestyle cool. We gather all the awesome people who are doing their thing, and we go party, and we have a good time, and we celebrate people, and we do things with a message under it, you know? And it's been awesome. I'm Skyping with somebody tomorrow in Perth who wants to do a Perth Love Mob. And New Orleans, and then there was the one in New York, and like, you know, it's happening.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and if anyone does get the chance, go check out what you guys are doing, because if we can spread that movement, and just to see the ripple effect that it has on, like, just looking at some of the videos, and when I watch them, it's just, it emanates a feeling of love just watching it. So the ripple effect in itself is huge. So get on there and have a look. It's a wonderful creation, amazing gift to the world. So if right now there was someone sitting in front of you, say the guy who's down on his last dollar, the woman who's just left an abusive relationship, the child who has no home, or say the person who just lost their job, if they were sitting in front of you right now, what would you say to them?
I would remind them. I would remind them to celebrate what they do have. And then I would give them a pretty powerful, sometimes difficult concept to take in, to embody. And that is that there is nothing outside of you. That we live in a universe, in a field where we are always co-creating with the Creator. So whatever you're experiencing right now, if you decide that either you caused it or you allowed it, or that you and I pause here because this is where people go, well, you know, a child didn't cause themselves to be raped. You know, this is where people go, and I completely get that on a intellectual standpoint. But I ask you all to think about this. Have you heard of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, so they have, I think, 13 million members, and they pass laws in the United States of America. Wow. MAD was created by a mother, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because her daughter was killed by a drunk driver like 20 years ago. And she created it and connected with a bunch of others, and now they've been passing laws and saving lives because her little girl passed away. Now, if you ask her on a conscious level, would you rather have your child? Of course she would. Would Martin Luther King rather be alive right now? I'm sure he would. Would Gandhi rather be alive right now? I'm sure. Would Nelson Mandela have rather not been in jail for 27 years? I'm sure the answer on an intellectual level is yes. But remember, and this is my opinion, that we call in these lives. All that I experienced, all the pain, all the joy, all of it, I called it in. So if I did, then I can reverse that. I'm always creating. Always creating. I chose my parents. I chose the whole thing according to me. So if I'm speaking to somebody and it's from my perspective, I would tell them to move into and take your power back. Because so many people are operating from victim mentality. It's all about how the government hurt them, or how she broke up with them, or how, you know, if I would have had a better parents or a better schooling, or if this, then, if then. I'd say take all that back, take your power back and say, I caused or I allowed. And now I have a choice of what I'm going to do and what I'm going to be, most importantly, with that information.
Yeah. And I think there's, you know, that there's a fine line, I don't know this side of it, but a fine line between taking that responsibility for something that happened to you that, say, was cruel, versus knowing when to walk away as it doesn't serve you in a healthy way. Being that your environment doesn't, say, evoke positive feelings, so you're in an environment that doesn't feel right, so you say to yourself, you know, do you stay in that environment and accept that it's all your responsibility, or do you tune into what's best for you and walk the other way? Is that taking responsibility, or is that running from it? And how do you know the difference?
Okay, so you're saying if someone's in a quote-unquote negative environment, let's say a woman being abused by her husband, when do you take responsibility, and when do you walk, and are those the same thing? Is that the question?
Yeah. Or, so when you walk, if you choose to say I'm walking away, is that walking away from the perceived responsibility, or is it being taking responsibility for yourself because it doesn't serve you anymore?
I would say the latter. And you know, responsibility is an inside job. None of this needs to be a physical thing. It needs to be a shift in the perception, a shift in the philosophy about the thing. You know, one of the things I always talk about is like, nobody can change night. Night is going to happen. But what you can do is you can put a jacket on. What you can do is you can go in a house. What you can do is sit by a fire. There's a lot of things you can do about the thing that happened. So the thing, how that happens, I stay out of that. The how is not my business. What is my business is how is where I go within myself about the circumstance. So yes, sometimes it's necessary to get up and go fast. But on your way out, take responsibility that I created that. You know how many people go into victim mentality about relationships, or about you know, employers that abuse their jobs, but what they don't want to take responsibility for is that they saw it in the beginning. Most relationships, at the end of the relationship, the same problem they have at the end was the one they had in the beginning. Saw it then, and chose day after day, year after year, year after year, until they got to this part, and then they want to blame him or her for what happened. No, you were responsible. You walked into that knowing, you saw it and you said no. You swallowed what you knew in your heart. So when you can take responsibility for that, then the game is changed forever. Then you go, oh, so if that was me, if I caused or I allowed, then I have my power, and the next person who comes in who doesn't represent what I say I want, I can move.
Yeah.
But if he has the power, then you're just a victim to it. You're a victim to everybody who comes.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say, get up.
Beautiful.
Take responsibility.
Love it. And when you see a homeless person, for instance, because I've seen you some of your videos of I think it was one of the Love Mob videos, and you were getting down and dancing with some of the homeless people and talking about their situation. So when you do see a homeless person and then another and then another,
yeah.
How do you decide which one to help? Can you sort of in practical terms help them all? And then deeper than that, in some way, do you feel that for the ones that don't immediately come across your path, that you actively go out to help? Do you feel like you're interrupting their own karmic journey, given we lower our... Sorry?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't, first of all, I don't believe in the word help.
Yeah.
To me, help is for victims. I support people, which is why the Love Mob video that you saw, there was no money exchange there. Because for me personally, I don't believe that they needed money. I think what was more necessary for that exchange was for the people in Hollywood to come to a space where they see that these people who choose to live this particular way are not less than, that we're all equal. And that just because you're choosing to live in a mansion and they're choosing to live in a box, you're doing cocaine off of tables in the mansion, they're doing cocaine off of the box.
Yeah.
No one's different. You all have issues. Everybody's got issues. And that was the purpose of that, of Just Because, the Just Because that you saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was to bring those people together, and to remember that we're all family.
Yeah. And sometimes all they need is a connection with another person, not necessarily a hand out, or
No.
it's more like a hand up, or just a hello and a wave and a connection with themselves. Because sometimes those certain souls, that is their journey. In my belief, is that is their path, that is their journey, and if they do not wish to be helped, if they are not desperate to get out of that current path, then sometimes when you have a big heart and sometimes you do want to. You think to yourself, well, am I actually interrupting what their soul's journey and their soul's lesson is actually all about? So dealing with that, yeah.
Yeah. If someone asks, if we're talking about homeless people, see, this is a tricky thing, and some people will judge me for this, and some may not. Yeah. But for me, if we're talking about homeless people in the United States of America, I have a different, because I've been to India and Africa and seen true poverty in some sense, but also. In the same breath, seeing true integrity, like what we call poverty in the U.S. is not even close. You take those same quote-unquote homeless people and you put them in the middle of Africa, where there's no running water, that's a whole nother game. And I've been to those places and seen the regalness and like learned my lesson. Like I was in Tanzania, and these villages bringing clean water and whatever else, and they schooled me. Because really, yes, everybody should have access to clean water. But if there was an apocalypse right now, the only people who would live would be those people in the bushes. Those would be the only people who would live. Why? Because they're already living off the land. They need nothing. They need nothing. They drink the mud water, and their systems over years and years, hundreds of years, can take that. Yes, they get diarrhea, and yes, some of them get sick and some of them die, but lots of them don't. Those are some of the strongest people I've ever seen in my life. So when I see homeless people in LA, I know that's a choice. Yeah. My uncle was a homeless person in Las Vegas, and he died on those streets. And I know that it was his choice because those were his friends. That's where he got his alcohol. That's where he got his drugs. So why would he leave? Why would he be somewhere else? Why would he go and get a 9-to-5 and work 40 years to be unhappy the whole 40 years, to get out, to get a pension, and barely make it? The whole system is screwed up. So I don't judge or look at them like they're less than. Like, they're doing their thing, that's a choice.
Yeah. And a lot of that... comes into their, you know, what they attribute the meaning of life to be. And I think the beautiful philosophers of our time, being Viktor Frankl and say Joseph Campbell, that you know, they do state that we are the ones that attribute the meaning to life. So in a world of duality that we live in, and being that there is that universal balance of, say, the good and the bad, the happy and the sad, yet the universal duality we have is there so we can actually know the difference between good and bad. So if all we had in the world of, say, love, if all we had was love and nothing else, and no duality to allow our human self to identify the difference, would we in fact know that it's actually love if we didn't have the duality? So it almost tells me that we have to have these elements, as you know, on both sides, so we have the ability to make the call on what is the difference, and then we can then attribute that meaning to that world.
I'll add a caveat to that. So for me, that's a yes. The part that I would add to it, and this is where I do my best to operate from, I don't do it all the time, but I do my best to operate from, is that the entire thing is love. So what I would call bad is still love. What I would call good is still love. That I'm enveloped in it. That I cannot be separate from it.
Yes.
And that, you know, that if I'm just energy, according to science, energy never dies. So then I am an ageless, deathless, changeless being made in the spiritual image and likeness of God. And if I am that, then I am infinite. And that's magic. I have nothing else to worry about if that's the case.
It's all sweet.
Yeah. All of it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? In hindsight, how many people would look right now and just think back to 5 years ago when you had that breakup and you thought that was it? Like, fuck, my life's over. And then 2 years later, you met that one.
Yeah.
And then that one became the two. And then, you know, like, it just, people,
yeah,
and awesome.
Relationships often teach us the most about ourselves if we're open to it, if we're aware for it. You know, with the being in relationships with people, I think often serve us more than anything else. Our individual journey, our soul's purpose, and teaches us things about ourselves in such an in-depth way. What do you feel about that? Because you've got you're with another, I call sort of a shining light, being the beautiful Alexi, and you know, the two of you together, it's so bright. I think we all need sunnies because it's just beautiful. You know, but what has that journey taught you so far?
Relationships are the greatest transformation course you could ever take. Like, it's taught me everything. You know, I was in a meeting the other day with a group of powerhouses. These people are doing gigantic things in the world. And one of the questions was name something in the last year that has been your biggest win. And for me, I explained to the group that, you know, sometimes I would go to these people years ago to human design. Have you ever heard of that, human design? People do your human design chart. It's sort of like astrology, right? Yeah. So I'd go to get my chart done and human design chart and all of the stuff, and all of them, no matter where I was in the world, they would all say the same thing. And they would say that you're here to do great things, but you will never be as great as you can be until you have a partner in shine. And you know, 2 years ago, I went into that process. I became, you know, celibate, and I started, like, you know, really calling in the one. And she appeared. And my biggest win in the last year has just been having the opportunity to be with such a magical, beautiful being, and to create all of this stuff. We're staring at the same mountain, you know? Like, you look at this, babe, come here. You take this person in, right? Yeah. And for me, it's like, I was modeling and doing all of this stuff, but at the same time, I was reading voraciously anything on consciousness, anything, Deepak Chopra, Wayne, anything, anybody you could name, I was, you know, consuming it. Yeah. And I used to tell my clients, not even believing it for myself, come sit here. I used to tell my clients, not even, this is who we're talking about, guys, on the other side. Yes. I used to tell my clients that, you know, right now, and this is, I literally remember this, I used to do this all the time, I would say, right now, your partner, your one, is on her journey, on his journey, doing this thing. Yeah. You know, scrapes, falls, breakups, all of that stuff. And you're on yours, doing your thing. And when you come into alignment with who you are, when you come into alignment with who you are, who you be, what's going to happen is you're going to be in the grocery store and bang, you will meet. And my biggest win in the last year was that, was having this little love nugget right here.
The love nugget.
I like to jump on it like that all the time.
Yeah, almost daily.
But yes, everybody, this is Alexi Panos.
Hi.
Go to her YouTube channel as well.
Yes, check out her channel. Very cool. Yeah.
I learned all my tricks from this guy.
But it's like Bruce Lipton talks about, like he talks about us being noble gases, you know, that we have to get to a point that in the periodical chemistry chart, that over in this side, over in the right side, they're the ones that can only mix and create and connect with another noble gas, whereas all the other ones, they have to have, the ones that are less noble, can mix in and create all these chemicals that, you know, and all these horrible chemicals that you get. But effectively, when I see you two, I think, oh, there's a pair of noble gases.
Nice. Nice. When she's having gas later, I'll remind you.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of, the terminology is quite funny, but yeah, me and my girlfriend laugh about that all the time. But he talks about that, old Brucey, so it's a very interesting sort of term. Bet you no one's called you a noble gas before.
Yes, we have new names to call each other.
Yes.
Instead of love nugget, noble gas.
Noble gas.
That's it.
All right, I'm taking off.
Lovely
Nice
to
to meet you.
How can people get hold of you, Alexi?
What's that?
How can people get hold of you and what you're doing?
Oh, so alexipanos.com and at Alexi Panos everywhere on the web. You can find me.
Brilliant. Thank you.
She's out there.
I'm out there. I'm around. Right,
Thanks. Bye. Brilliant.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. So that's been an amazing insight, and that's a really true sense. I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with it. Now, you also talked, and we'll wrap up soon, but we also talked about the system, and I totally agree with you. The system is broken. It doesn't really work for us anymore. It doesn't serve us anymore. How do you feel with the current economic system, that the impact that it has on the mission to come from a place of love? Can the two work in harmony when one feeds an ego and the other nourishes the soul? And how do you see that how do you see us breaking that down?
Yes. So the answer is, for me, yes, they can work in harmony. They are working in harmony.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
To me, there's people are innately beautiful. They're innately good, and like under all of our learnings. What did Einstein say? He said that the only thing that gets in the way of my learning is my education. You know, under all of our education is like the truth of us, and I'm watching it. I am living proof of it. I'm a dude who started making YouTube videos, and now I'm about to go speak for 5,000 people, and that's happening a lot.
Yeah.
That is not a coincidence. There is a shift happening, and what's happening, even on what I would call one of the worst companies, the food industry, to me, is just like, they're killing us.
Killing us slowly.
Yes, and you know, I've always been a big like McDonald's. Like, I'm not such a fan of McDonald's, but even McDonald's, you know, a few years ago they created their parfait menu, and everybody's trying everywhere we go. We went to dinner the other night, and they had the regular menu, and then they were like, "Oh, are you guys vegetarian?" And we're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, we have a vegan menu." Like 5 years ago, nowhere had a vegan menu. See what I'm saying? Like, we're at a chain, and they pull out a vegan menu.
Yeah.
You know, the shift is happening, and the conglomerates, these big, you know, they're all holding on, and they want a part of it. They want to stay in. So what they're doing is that they're shifting with the consumer. As the consumer gets smarter, they shift.
Yeah.
It may not be for the right reasons right now, but what they'll learn, and that's your job, that's my job. Is like, you can have both and.
Yeah. For
the longest, we have been playing this like either or game. Like, either I go for my bottom line and I make money and I kill, or I'm altruistic and I save the babies in Africa and I da. Like, no. What companies are learning now, because the consumer is getting smarter, is that you can do both. You can be a good person, a good company, serve the planet, and make a bunch of money.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for benefit. I have a friend who made, and it's going to blow up. Hear my words now. It's going to blow up. The not the Fortune 500, the Game Changers 500. GameChangers500.com.
Nice. You heard it here first, people.
Yes, exactly. He's taken the 500 for-benefit companies, the 500 best companies in the world, and he's creating this thing where they get to play with each other and say, yes, you're doing good. Yes, I'm doing good. Let's all keep doing good.
Yeah.
And we're just going to shift it.
Love it. Love it. I'm definitely checking that out.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I've always had, talking just quickly on like religions and things like that, I've always had the belief that all religions and spiritual beliefs, they serve the same message, being love and understanding. However, once a belief becomes institutionalized and it becomes an us against them sort of mentality, I feel the fabric of that message becomes humanized, individualized, and we pretty much lose that essence of the true meaning of that spiritual belief or religion. Do you think there will always be, in the world that we live in, and we are seeing the shift, but do you think that there will always be that us and them mentality because of the very nature of our human self? We need to identify with the belief to attribute the meaning, and therefore we can automatically create a segregation. Do you think humanity can ever get to a position where they can detach from that individual need to have that meaning that's associated with the spiritual belief or the religion, and just actually look at it as we are all one, we are all connected? What do you, Preston Smiles, thinks it will take to break those barriers down?
Yes. Let me see if it's still up. I was looking this up earlier, which is hilarious that you're asking me that. I looked up if the... have you ever seen those statistics if the world was 100 people?
I have. Ages ago, I think I've seen something like that, but I can't remember the...
What is it at? Whatever. I'll just tell you what I remember finding.
Yeah.
So, if the world was 100 people, I think they said... and this is the category of religion. 22 of them are Christian. 15 are Muslim. And then it goes from there. Like 5 are other religions. And then it's like 13 or some high number that don't identify with a religion at all, but identify as spiritual. And what I'm projecting for sure, because I exist and you exist, and some of my friends have these gigantic podcasts and all of these things that they're doing, and you know, I was with my buddy Ralph Smart. He has 250,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, right? And all he does is talk about consciousness. That is buying power, you know? It's clear that something is happening. And to me, we'll look up 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now and look at a statistic like that, if the world was 100 people, and I think those numbers will drastically shift. And it's happening all the time, you know? I made that video the other day, what if God is in everything? And if you go through the comments, you'll see a couple haters, you'll see a couple people who are like, this is blasphemy, you're not, you know, and all that stuff. But for the most part, you'll see a bunch of people who are like, wow, thank you for speaking the truth, thank you for putting words to something I've been thinking about.
Wow.
And I absolutely believe, because I know that nothing in the universe is static, that it will not stay like this. It will not. We are that. We are that beautiful new wave coming in, washing away all the bullshit, and you know, bringing the beauty.
Yeah, love it. So, speaking of bringing the beauty into Australia, everyone that's in Oz, our followers in Oz, he's coming to Vegas in Brisbane. Is that right? So tell us about that. Tell us about your journey across here, when it's happening, and any details that people can find out about it. Yeah,
so I leave February 28th. I leave next week. And I will be there on March 2nd to March 20th. And I'm going to speak at a conference called Strength in Motion for the Isogenics celebration. Their big celebration where they bring everybody in from Australia and New Zealand and celebrate what they've done so far. Which I've been Skyping and talking with, you know, the the highest people in these companies, and they're really good people.
Yeah.
And I also have tried the product and looked at the science behind it and all that stuff, and it's amazing. And that's an interesting thing because they booked me off of YouTube. Like here, there's these people that, are looking for it, and here I am just giving my gift away over and over again, giving my gift, knowing, and I have this thing that I talk about, which is called the double boomerang effect, where you throw your boomerang that way, and another one comes, right? Somebody else's boomerang comes back to you. So I'm throwing my boomerang, I'm giving my gift here on YouTube, loving people up, doing my best to serve humanity. And what's happening over here is that's coming right back from somewhere else. And this is one of the fruits of that. Me coming to Australia and being paid to come speak in front of 5,000 people. I'm going to have another speech. I have a speech on Thursday in front of 1,000. I have a speech on Saturday in front of 5,000 for the Isotonic celebration. So if you are in Bris Vegas or close to there, come out. It is going to be wild.
Check it out.
I'm opening up, and it's going to be crazy. I'm trying to tell you. I'm going bananas. I'm going to go crazy on that stage.
Oh, gosh, that's going to be amazing. And so how do people also just get in touch with you if they haven't heard of you? Some people might be watching this for the first time. How do they get hold of the stuff that you're doing in the world of Preston Smiles?
Absolutely. You go to prestonsmiles.com, and you put your email in there. And there's a few things coming up that are going to be really awesome, like the bridge method, but I also have individual coaching, which has been ridiculously amazing. It's one of my favorite things to do because I love, personally watching the transformation, of people getting their lives back. So, if that is in the pocket for somebody, like I'm here, I am not a regular coach at all. As you can see, I'm freaking wild, and I go where I need to go.
Yeah.
I make YouTube videos and Instagram videos. Instagram is every day. So if you're on social media, just type in @PrestonSmiles, and I'll pop up everywhere. Or just go to PrestonSmiles.com, and you shall find me.
Beautiful. And last but not least, Preston, what do you think it takes or it means to be digitally conscious?
I think it means to use the interweb as a tool to be a graffiti artist, to spray paint messages of love and lift the consciousness of our family.
Love it. I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Many blessings to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me and embark on a few different topics there. And we delved a little bit deep. I appreciate your time. And if everybody, there will also be some links in this for people so they know how to get hold of you. So thanks again, Preston.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.